How's it going, guys? Welcome back. So in this video what I want to do is just go over some of the things that Emma and I picked up on our travels to Japan recently. We went to two towns over there which are quite known for retro games, which are Osaka and Tokyo. Now Tokyo, they have a place called Akihabara, which is probably the more well-known one, and Osaka was a place called Den Den town. So that's where we got the majority of these games from a few shops down there, which I will also put links to those places in the description for this video. What I want to do is just go through all of the games that we got while we were there, and I'm also going to let you know how much do these games cost, and not just in Japanese but also in English as well. So let's just go through some of those games. So first of all, we've got the Hyrule Fantasy Zelda, or as we know it, The Legend of Zelda. Now this game is for the Famicom in Japan. We know it as the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now this game, I just had to pick this up. First of all, look at the cart. It's so much nicer than the carts that we have back home. You know, we're used to the big giant long grey carts. I know that this game does have a gold card in most of America and Europe, but just the artwork for this is so much nicer, and considering that the cartridge alone normally costs around 50 English pounds, getting this for 3,880 yen, which works out about 25 pounds. So you can't go wrong with this game, and also it's just a classic. Next up we have Pokemon Red, or as they like to call it in Japan, Pocket Monsters. Now this one is in such a nice condition. It's in the box, it has the manual, it has all the little slips inside, and the cartridge also. Now we had to pick this one up. I mean, this is part of our childhoods. Most people you know have played this game and loved it and been absolutely addicted to it. Played it at school, wherever you went, you took your Game Boy and you played this game. Now considering that the cart over here probably costs around 15 to 20 pounds, and that's if the battery inside is still working, so you would normally have to replace that just so you can save games. This game cost 4,780, so this was probably about 30 pounds, but this includes the box and the manuals inside as well. Also, what I do have to mention, in case you are wondering, and because a lot of these games do look like they are sealed, I do have to advise that they have been resealed, so they're not original sealed in box. Otherwise, I imagine they would cost far too much. But yeah, so these are just kept, because these are kept in stores, so they need to stop them from becoming dirty or getting beaten up, or fingerprints and stuff like that, so they have resealed them. Next up we have Diddy Kong Racing. Now I'm sure if you guys have watched some of our videos from over in Japan, you would have seen that this has probably been carried around with us around the stores, so you would have known that we would have picked this game up. But this game was by far one of my favourite N64 games growing up. Just the fact that you had so many, it was like Mario Kart but with cool characters, and you could fly and you could use hovercrafts, and the boosts and everything, and the fact that they had an actual kind of like an open world Super Mario 64 kind of influence with the way that the story mode was, and the fact that they had like boss races and stuff like that. So you can't, and look at the box for this, it's just absolutely stunning. And this one costs about 1,480 yen, so it's about 10 pounds, and that's, it's got the manual inside here, it has the game, and obviously the box. Next up we have what is no doubt my favourite PS1 game ever, and that is Klonoa Door to Phantomville. Now this game alone, I've been trying to get this for so long. Now, this game over here in the UK, probably the disc alone goes for around £50. If you're looking to get it with the actual case, you're probably looking at about 80 to 90 pounds, and that's if there are any available on eBay or in stores. So picking this one out was really hard to get, because this was one that I was certain I was going to try my best to get out in Japan, and at first it didn't look like we were going to be able to do this, but Emma actually asked one of the guys behind the counter, and he actually brought this out, so good thing that we asked. And that's another tip as well that we learned as well. If you can't find something, because these shops are quite daunting, and especially we don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, so a lot of the time it is really daunting trying to find a game, so you do have to ask a lot of the time. So we would never have gotten this, and I'm so glad that we asked. Now this game, believe it or not, costs 1,780 yen, which is probably about 13 pounds. And we finally got a game that over here is valued at about 50 for the disc alone. But that's Klonoa. If you guys haven't played this, I advise you, if you can't afford the game, go out and get a ROM for your PC or something like that, and just play this game, because this game is by far one of the best games ever made for PlayStation. Now this next game, I actually had to ask one of the gentlemen to come out and get this out of a glass cabinet that this was displayed in. I could only find carts of this around, and on our last day in Japan we actually picked this up. Our last full day in Japan we picked this up, and that is Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear for Famicom in the box with the cart and the manual. Now this game costs around 4,500 yen, which works out about £30, which I'm not actually sure what it goes for over the UK, but I do know that it is more expensive than this, and this isn't the Metal Gear that wasn't made by Hideo Kojima. This was his first game. The second one that was released was not made by Hideo Kojima, so this was everything that he made, and you can still see remnants of this in games up until, I'd say, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, kind of still had the influences from this game. But yeah, I mean, look at this. Next up, we've got Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, or as they call it over there, the Super Famicom. Now this game costs about £15, I believe it was about 2,500 yen, and if you know about this game, you know how good it is. This game, by no stretch of the imagination, was probably the best game on the Super Nintendo, in my opinion anyway. Just the atmosphere that these Metroid games, especially this one, just kind of had. I've even lost words there. Just the atmosphere that these games had, undeniably good. Just if you haven't played this game, I highly advise that you pick this game up. But yeah, so this costs about £15. It's really good condition, and you can't go wrong with Metroid. Next we have Dragon Quest IV. Probably my favourite one in the series. This was one that I actually I had a shopping list before we went out to Japan, and this was one that I set out that I wanted to get before we went out there. This one probably cost me around £7. This is 1,080 yen. This is in the box. It's obviously it's been resealed, but it has the manual inside. It has the game alone, and this is probably just it's such a good value for money when you consider what you're getting over there, considering what you would get back home. So yeah, Dragon Quest IV. Next up we have Super Mario RPG. Now this game is so good. This game, you don't normally associate an RPG with Mario characters, but this game just got everything right. I can't fault this game, you know, and it still holds up today. The graphics on it were really great for the time. Just a really, really addictive game, and it just had so much personality to it, unlike a lot of RPGs around at the time, kind of all quite felt a bit of the same. And I mean, just look at the box art for this as well. Now this cost around 1,880 yen, so that probably was about £13 to £12. Not bad. Next up we've got the one and only Double Dragon 2 for the Famicom. Now this game costs around 2,380 yen, which works out about £15 to £16. And as soon as I saw it, I just thought, you know, for that price, you can't go wrong with this, and it's such a great game. If you guys haven't played it, highly advise that you guys do pick this up or just play it online. So this next game is the prequel to my favourite game ever for the Genesis, which is called Rolling Thunder 2. So that means obviously this game is Rolling Thunder, and this is for the Famicom. It was released on quite a few different systems, but this game, again, was another one that we had to ask if they had it, and they did have this game, which we couldn't have found without them. And this game is just such a good shoot 'em up platformer game. I can't recommend this highly enough. I have not been able to find this anywhere in the UK for any PAL region game, so to get this was just such it was such an incredible thing. This cost 1,980 yen, about £13 in the box, and it was original. It's one of the games that was released with a hard case, so you can't go wrong. So glad that we got this. So next up we've got a couple of bargains, which was Dragon Ball Z for the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom, and that was 380 yen, so that works out at £3. And then next up we also have this Yoshi. Now I'm not exactly sure which one this is. I haven't played it yet. Obviously it's still in the wrapping for it. We wanted to pick it up. It's only 550 yen, but just look at the cart alone. It looks so cute. That was 550 yen, so that works out about £3.50 to £4 probably. But I had to pick that up. But those are two little bargain games that we got, and it just shows you that you can get bargain games without having to spend over £10 over there. And they had so many games like this that you could just pick up, and you know, it's not like these aren't known games, they're not just random games, and they have loads of bargain bins over there. Now these weren't in bargain bins, these were shelved. They do have loads of bargain bins where you can get stuff for about 100, 200 yen, which probably works about £1 each. And you know, they label them if there is a fault with them. They'll always show you as well if there's any markings wrong on it, or if, you know, it's damaged in any way. They'll let you know and let you inspect the games before you buy them, and that's the case for box games as well. They'll always offer you different versions of the cart as well if you're unhappy with the cart that you've got. So next up we have my favourite game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that is Faxanadu. Now this game, I can't stress how much I love this game. This game has brought me close to tears, to rage, to absolute joy. This game is everything that I love about kind of platforming, role-playing games like this. And the fact is that in these days as well is they didn't have the kind of save state, so you had to use passwords and stuff like that to save. And to get this game, I mean, it is quite a cheap game. It's about £15 for the cart. I do have this over in, I do have the PAL version of this game, but I wanted to get this one as a box game over here. And obviously you can see it's obviously a lot smaller than, because obviously got this in the box condition. It's about 1,280 yen. That works out about £8. And to get your favourite game for that console, for that in the box with all the contents in it, you can't go wrong. And I know I have been saying this about a few of these games, but if you are going to try any of these games, I highly recommend that you try this game. This game, it holds up still to this day, considering a lot of the games on that system don't. That's facts, and I do. Now next up, we've got a Square Enix game, in the first in this series for the Super Nintendo, and that is Romancing Saga. This was another one that I had on my shopping list before coming out that I really wanted to pick up, and so glad that I did. It was really hard because they had all three available in the box to buy, and I had to go for the first one in the series. The box alone just looked so nice. This cost about 1,480 yen, so you're looking at about £9 to £10 for this as well. Great deal as well, and just the back of this game is really nice as well. So another cheap game that I got over there was the original Dragon Quest for the Famicom. Now this cost me about 780 yen, so this was about £5 to get, and they had quite a few of these in stock as well. And that's the great thing about these loose carts over in Japan, they have a lot of them. It's not quite scarce, and that means that the price can be low, so you can get these games for cheap. So glad that we picked this one up, because I know that I'd already got Dragon Quest 4, but also it's always fun to pick up the originals of the series as well. This next game, had a bit of an interesting kind of experience trying to get this game, which it was a bit of a good and bad experience getting this game, but I'm glad that I do have it in the end, and that is Makai Mora, also known as Ghosts and Goblins for the Famicom. Now this is another one of my favourite games for the Famicom. Now I picked this up in a store called Super Potato in Den Den Town in Osaka. This is boxed, it comes with all the slips inside in the game. This cost me around 5,800 yen. This is one of the most expensive games that we got, so this probably cost me around £35. Unfortunately, after we left the shop and we went to another shop, I found this for probably about £15 cheaper, and I was unable to return the game. But I'm just glad that we got it anyway. Just look at the box art for this. It's such a cool game, and it's been on so many systems, which was a bit surprised why it was so expensive, but that's actually quite cheap considering if you were to import this game or get this over in the UK, it would be a lot more expensive. And actually saying that, I don't actually think I've seen this in the UK for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I may be wrong, or I just haven't seen it. But just glad we got that. So penultimate game on this list is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. I'm so glad that we did pick this one up. I don't actually own this one over here in the PAL region at all, or do I own any of the Castlevania games actually? So glad that we did pick this one up. This one costs about 3,780 yen, so that probably cost us around £20 to £25 for this. So glad we picked this game up. Such a fun game, and if you've played these games, you know all about them. And finally, this game is quite literally legendary, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. If you've ever picked up a games console in your life, you know how important this game is. By far one of the best Zelda games ever made. I'm so glad that we got this game, because it means that I now have quite a few. I only ever owned was Link's Adventure before, the gold cart for the NES. So now to have the original Zelda and this game, just absolutely over the moon. Now this only costs 1,480 yen, so only about £9 for such a huge game. And I'm not exactly sure how much this goes for over here in the UK for the UK version, but I don't believe it's that cheap, so happy that we got this. So how do I play these games? Well, obviously these games are Japanese games, so they're region locked to Japan, so we can't play them on PAL or NTSC based consoles. And only yesterday I received a Retron 5 that I bought. It cost me about £140, and this console allows you to play NTSC, PAL and Japanese titles all on a console. So it allows you to play the Super Mega Drive, also known as the Genesis, NES and Famicom games, Super Nintendo / Super Famicom games, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, I believe, as well. And so you also might be thinking, well, you can't read them unless you know how to read Japanese, but that's not necessarily the case. With the Retron 5, it also allows you to use an SD card to patch the games into translation, so you can actually get them all translated into English. Now that cost me about £140, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider that it means that you can buy games cheaper from abroad, bring them home and actually play them, you're saving yourself so much money on games that you would have paid double the price for just to have it your region console. So how much did all these games cost in total? So in total these cost around 41,000 yen. That works out about £300. Now that is a lot of money, and it's not something that we would normally spend on games, but granted we were on holiday. And also, when you think of it like this, look at Klonoa for example. The disc alone for that runs for around £50 to £60. And that was one of 18 games that we bought. So when you think about the amount of money that you're actually not saving, because you're still spending, you're never saving, you're still spending, but the money that you saved if you were to have bought the original version in your region, you save a lot of money. So no regrets at all. We had such a great time. But what I'll do is any of the links for the places that we went to and bought some of these games from, I will leave them in the description below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a thumbs up below, and also if you can subscribe, that'd be amazing. If you want to see if you want to see us going around the shops and buying the games and seeing what else that they had in these shops and what they look like and the other prices for the other games that they had there, just go through into our Japan playlist and you'll be able to see us go through Akihabara and Den Den town and exploring these places. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.